Are you ready to add some fall magic to your doodles? Today we're going to be creating 3 fall characters using some vibrant Tombow watercolor markers, and then we're just going to finish it off with some black fine liner for the details and just to add a little spice to it. We've got a cute little ghost and he's got his pet pumpkin. We have an adorable black cat, and then we have a scarecrow that is as cute as he can be with his little blue jeans on. So if we haven't met, I'm Viv, this is Art with Viv, and let's go to the studio. We're going to start off with this cute little kitten, and I'm coloring in his eyes with a really pale yellow, and then for the shadows I'm putting in a little bit of a brownish, kind of an ochre color. We're just going to call it an ochre color. And then to blend those two together, I'm coming back to my lighter yellow and just blending those so that there's not such a hard edge. That's what I love about the Tombow markers, is they blend so easily together. And I am using a watercolor sketchbook that has regular watercolor paper in it. Then I am just using my black Tombow marker. We're going to go ahead and sketch in those pupils, leaving the white of the paper for the highlights. And then with this black marker, I'm going to go ahead and just color in the deepest shadows, the darkest shadows on our black cat. Now I'm using some black, but I'm also using some shades of gray for the different values of the cat, for the highlights and things like that. You could use blues, like a really pale blue instead of gray. I just stuck with the grays to keep it simple. And yeah, the first thing I did was I just put in all of those darkest shadows with the black. I put a little pinky rose in for the nose. And that's all there was to it. Then I traded off my black for my mid-tone gray and started putting in the mid-tone shadows, and then I used a lighter gray for the lightest shadows. And I really love this kitten. I think he's so cute, but I got his nose a little crooked. Don't tell anybody. His nose is just a little tiny bit crooked, but he's still cute. He's just a crooked nosed cat. And so I was just trying to block in those biggest colors, those biggest shadows first. I went back to my sort of rosy pink and did the inside of his ears, and then came back with some of that darker gray to put in those darker shadows. So we've got a pale gray, we've got a black, and now we've got sort of a charcoal mid-tone gray. That's all there is to it. It's just trying to get in those shadows and shapes, which I tell you over and over and over. And so we're just getting in those shapely shadows. These shadows are shapely. We're putting in our shapely shadows, and we're trying to make sure they're the right lightness or darkness, and that's all there is to it. And we're just going to continue working around the cat, putting in the different values and the different shapes of his shadows. That's all there is to it. I think we're going to name this cat Shadow. He's going to be out on the prowl on Halloween night. Little Shadow, looking for some trouble. And once we get all those shapes and shadows in the way we like them, I think the cat came out pretty cute. I'm just putting in a little bit more of the black, sort of as a background shadow. Not really a background shadow, but just to make that gray pop. I didn't want to leave the gray hanging out there by itself. So we're just putting in some black shadows and just fixing things up. And once we get all that done, we're going to use these same gray tones, the lighter and the mid-tone, not the black. We're not going to use the black right away. We're just going to use that to start shadowing in our ghost. You could also, again, use blues or lavenders. Just make sure you have 3 different values, 3 different shades of it. So I'm going to go ahead in there with my mid-tone and the little wrinkles of his little ghosty self, his little ghosty body, his little sheet. I don't know. Is it his body? Is it a sheet? I don't know. What is that? Is that his body, or is it a sheet? Well, we're going to put the shadows in no matter what. So the darker ones go in the deeper creases. The lighter gray comes out from those creases. And then, of course, underneath, we put the darkest charcoaly gray and a little bit more of that gray up there in those creases too, just to give it some dimension. We're going to make his little eyes gray. And he's a happy little ghost. He's happy. We got a sweet ghost. Gonna go ahead and color in the inside of his mouth with that charcoal gray, and then we're taking our lighter gray and just blending that in so that he has some eyes in there. And I am just gonna go ahead and outline him with this paler gray. Yeah, I like that. Then we're just going to add a few more little shadows here and there, these paler shadows, just to give him some shape and some dimension. And then I'm going to go with the palest pink that I can find, and we're going to give him some little rosy cheeks. Just 2 little circles for some little rosy cheeks. He's got his little pet pumpkin with him. And I think he calls him Pepper. I don't know why, but that is the name of his pet pumpkin. And they go everywhere together, and they are ready for some trick-or-treating. So we're going to take Pepper, and we are going to paint his eyes in with some nice bright yellow. And then we're going to put the really light yellow around for some highlights on his flesh. Then we're going to go ahead and get some orange. I got to find an orange here. And we are going to start outlining a little bit, going into those creases with that orange. And it's a nice bright orange. And you can use whatever colors that you have. I'm just using just normal colors where it's not anything tricky. They're just orange, yellow, gray, black, pink. That's basically what we're doing. Now I'm coming back with that same yellow that we used at the very beginning, and I'm blending out that mid-tone orange all around, making sure that the middle of his face is brighter and the outside edges are a little darker. Now I am going to go in there with a deeper orange and just start putting the shadows. You know how the mouth is cut and then like you can see the inside of the pumpkin? Well, that's what I am trying to convince you of here. That's what I'm putting in here with the dark orange, is those inside parts of the pumpkin mouth, that like layer, that thickness to it. Then I also went ahead and put some of that darker shadow color in the creases of each of the pumpkins, the little pumpkin sections, and then I went again with my yellow and blended that all together. We're just going to do a little light brown stem for the pumpkin, nothing too crazy. Remember, we are going to come back with our black fine liner and add some little pizzazz with that, some details and pizzazz. I'm using a really pale brown color for the face. I think he's made out of burlap, so it's sort of a burlappy color. I'm thinking just coloring in his whole face. Then with a little bit of a lighter brown, more of a tan color, I'm going ahead in with that little straw cap of his. He is just a cutie pie. Then I am just adding a little bit of lavender to his little overalls, his jeans. He's got on some cute overalls. I'm calling them jeans, but they're really overalls. My grandpa used to wear overalls. He only wore Liberty brand. And he couldn't read. So when he would go to buy his overalls, he would look for the what am I trying to think of? He would look for the logo on there because he couldn't read. And then when they changed their logo, he could not find his overalls anymore. It was really kind of sad. But he caught on quickly and he found out that, the logo had changed. And so he he did catch on, but at first it kind of threw him for a loop. So after I put that purple in those overalls, then I went ahead with a light blue over it and colored that over it. Then I took a little bit of red, put it on his nose, and just at the ends of each side of his hat band. And then I am going to go ahead and just do some stripes or some plaid onto his shirt with the same red. We're just keeping it kind of consistent. And now I'm just taking a little bit of a lighter, paler red, and I put it on the edges, and then I just taking my clear blender, that's my clear blender, and blending all of that together, and it just adds a little bit of shadow to the shirt, and it blends that red together up, but it leaves it a little bit paler in the center of that hat band so that it looks, you know, three-dimensional as our little doodle can. Now I'm just taking a nice pale yellow, the same one we used for the cat's eyes and the pumpkin's face, and coloring in the straw that is kind of hanging out. You know how they got the straw, he's stuffed with straw, so that's kind of hanging out. Then I'm taking that pale brown, doing his little boots. He's got some cute little boots, and then a deeper, darker brown to outline those, just add a little bit of shadow to those boots. And then we can come back in and blend those together with our clear blender. That's all there is to it. I really like these markers because they are so vivid. These have lasted me for about a year, so yeah, I'm really happy with them. Now I'm just putting a darker brown into just doing some little dots and dashes, giving it some texture, giving the straw some texture, then giving his hat some texture, and it adds some shadows too, so that, you know, it'll look nice. I'm coloring in his little buttons, coloring in his eyes, and he is just as cute as can be, I think. So I'm gonna pick out, let's pick out a nice fine liner, and I am using the Hoo fine liners, and I'm just going to trace around the pumpkin, his shape, trace around his mouth, and you see right away that gives him a lot more dimension. You can also, of course, trace around your little ghosty guy, little ghosty and his little pepper pumpkin that he is going to take trick-or-treating with him. And you can even add a little bit of hatch marks here and there if you want to add even more shading. It's up to you. But, you know, I think that fine liner really adds a lot of structure to the marker doodles. Now, you don't have to do the marker. I just think that it adds a lot of structure and a little bit more pizzazz to it. Now I'm taking my white gel pen, adding some highlights to Pepper the Pumpkin, and going sort of down those creases where each section is on him. You know how the pumpkins look like. They grow in little sections. Some highlights in the kitty's eyes. There's some highlights here and there across his nose, on his little nose, right across the top. You can do some highlights around the outer eyes, makes them look a little bit bigger, makes them stand out a little bit more, down his forehead and off the side of his cheek. And of course, give him some whiskers. That is just, he's just too cute with his whiskers. And just add highlights wherever you think that they, you know, where you think they would look good. It's totally up to you. I'm just sort of randomly putting them in there where I think that they would look good. And just to sort of give it another layer of definition. He is a cute cat. I really like my cat. Like my kitty cat. Just highlight his ears some. The inside corner of his eyes. You know where it kind of, the light glistens in the corner of the eyes because they're a little bit watery. And looking cute, looking cute, looking cute. I just can't stop messing around with him. Now I've changed back over to my black marker, and I'm just adding some more shadows and a little bit of line work in some of the areas where I feel like it needs to be darker. And then I'm going to come over here to my cute little scarecrow, add his mouth and give him a few stitches in that mouth. His little mouth is stitched on. And you can outline his hat. You can also just do some little hatch marks on his hat to give it some texture, make it look like a straw hat. You can also outline the straw sticking out from under his hat. do more hatch marks on the top part of his hat, however you want to do it. Totally up to you. He is just a cutie pie. The straw that is coming out of his neck, we are going and outlining that as well. Outlining his little overalls, the buttons on his overalls, his shirt, and then the straw coming out the ends of his sleeves. We're just making him cute now, and I really like the outlines, the black outlines on these doodles. Like I said, I think it gives them a little extra dimension, a little extra pizzazz, and a little more structure. Now I'm adding just some stitch marks onto his overalls. We're going to add some stitch marks across the cuffs at the bottom. Going to add him some little pockets, and then of course outline the straw that's hanging out his pant legs. Oh, he's so cute. I just love my little scarecrow, my little straw man. And just add some details to his boots, outline those really nicely. Then I decided just to take the black fine liner and darken up some more plaids in his shirt, just so that you can really tell that it's a plaid. And there you go. They are so cute. I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. Shout out to my patrons. If you are a patron, you will get the outline drawing for these cute little doodles so that you can trace it and do it yourself. All right, guys, I wish you a happy painting.